2020 academic year in Zimbabwe is going to be a write-off. Well, at least in terms of in-class learning. Now the globe has shifted to online learning as a result of the measures being put in place to spread or to combat the spread against COVID-19. And this week, we'll look at online learning in Zimbabwe. And this is the Broadcast show. And I'm your host, Wilbert. Most educational systems around the globe have shifted to online learning. Well, in Zimbabwe, this could be problematic, given the reason that we need at least certain things to be in place for us to effectively or successfully have a carry out of online learning in Zimbabwe. Number one, cheap data. Number two, internet infrastructure. Number three, internet connected device for both students and lecturers. And number four, trained personnel to use the effectiveness and the tools which will be put in place for online learning. Now, data charges in Zimbabwe is one of the most expensive across the African continent. Now, if e-learning has a chance of succeeding, there's supposed to be at least free basic internet sites which are provided for online learning and also subsidies given to this sector because it is compromised due to the issue of COVID-19 pandemic. In the 21st century, the COVID pandemic has ravaged much of what we normally knew as the normal. We've got a new normal. Now, in the 21st century also to note, access to internet is a basic human right. It's supposed to be afforded and it's supposed to be accessible to everybody to be on their disposal. Now, there's need to invest in internet infrastructure, internet connected servers, internet attendant software engineering, which would never collapse in any of heavy traffic. Now, we've seen this over the time when there's much traffic of internet, there's speeding of internet, which is much crucial for it to be an excellence for online learning. Now, in Rwanda, the Rwandan government launched a satellite to provide internet for the rural areas and for the rural schools. Now, in Zimbabwe, this can actually work more effectively, considering that we've got the bulk of the young people and the youth which are in universities, which are in secondary schools and also in primary schools, having to reside in the rural areas. Now, for this to come into excellence, there is need at least for the government to invest in internet infrastructure that we mentioned earlier. Some institutions in Zimbabwe have already switched to the online learning that we're talking about. Now, there's going to be a wide gap between the rich and the poor. The reason, because the most sophisticated tools and machines to combat the issue of e-learning is done by the people that have got the means to an end. Now, the higher you are in terms of income earning, the more the chance that you have for you to access the materials and also to be in the places where you can use the materials required for online learning. We're talking about the internet speed, we're talking about the Wi-Fi connectivity, we're talking about the internet connected device such as the tablet, such as the iPad, and such as the phone or the laptop. Adjustments, therefore, have to be made in combating the teaching of the personnel, such as the teachers and the lecturers, and also systems which need to be upgraded in basic institutions and basic schools. Now, this also comes with a lot of cost. So the cost is unavoidable, but then we have to move to the new normal. For this to happen, there is need for stakeholders to come and join hands to fight the issue of online to be a success. Now, speaking about the satellite which was launched in Rwanda, it costed the government about $3 billion as compared to us in Zimbabwe, where in 2019 budget for both primary, secondary education and for higher and tertiary education, we had a total of $1.2 billion, which is basically a much gap, considering that we want to invest in the online learning, which is basically the new normal of the modern today. So for the modern today to come into success and for it to come into light, we need stakeholders, government, non-governmental organizations, and we need service providers such as Econet, Telecel, Africom, and etc., for them to come in force and give lucrative packages that can harness and help the student for them to meet the ends of the goals which they seek to achieve. This is basically attaining the education which they are going to school for. The exposure of young people to e-learning exposes them to at least being able to attain the productivity which can be needed in the near future, which also boosts the growth or GDP per capita of a country because they've got the abundance of educated young people which can act as the resource which a country needs for it to have a much productivity base. Currently in Zimbabwe, we've got Zero Digital, which was approved by the Ministry of Primary and Secondary And also in the tertiary sector, our research shows that they've got at least their portals and online learning platforms which they use. But our research also revealed that they are not particularly happy with the review and the feedback that they have on these portals. There is a little of glitch which happens in those areas. So there's very much an area for them to improve, for them to successfully carry out the issue of online learning in Zimbabwe. For some low budgetary schools which cannot afford much of what we've highlighted earlier, they've resorted to the issue of WhatsApp learning, sharing documents and sending each other PDF files. But then this one is problematic because it does not at least hit the effectiveness and the proefficiency that seek to be hit by education provision. It's been a pleasure sharing with you the areas that can be improved if online learning is to succeed in Zimbabwe. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that we need to shift to the old ways and move to the new normal. This is the new normal, and we are appealing to stakeholders and to all the people to at least harness what we have to their disposal so that they can be protected and they can be safe, because there's no going back to the school, at least not now, at least in terms of e-learning. This is the new normal. So we'd like you to subscribe, hit the subscription button and follow us on our Facebook page. And I'm your host, Wilbert Muzarwet.